Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. Thank you so much for joining us. We think we have a great speaker today to kick off 2022. Before we hand everything over to him, I'd like to take a minute and have us go around and introduce our Heritage Escrow team that sets all of this up for everybody. So I'm John Curry. I'm the sales executive of the Balboa Park office. I have the pleasure of representing two exceptional escrow officers. We have Debbie Howe, who handles the bulk escrow and business sales transactions, and then our branch manager, Donna Hamilton. Jerry, you want to go next?
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jared Payne with Heritage Escrow, Rancho Santa Fe. I work with Stephanie Clark and Kristen Bramble.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brianna, and I represent the Carlsbad office and support the escrow officers Anela Miyashiro, Rana Del Rosario, and our branch manager, Holly Burt.
Thank you, ladies. And now on to the man of the hour, our guest speaker, chief economist and founder of Reports on Housing, Stephen Thomas.
Stephen, well, hello there. How are we doing today? I'm right now. I'm updating really fast. I did not have my my total slideshow totally updated, so give me 1 second to go live. I'm doing both Riverside County and San Diego County. Now it's the first of the year. Of course, there are a lot of changes. So just give me exactly 10 more seconds. I'm updating the last slide, the expected market time for San Diego County. And perfect. I just want to see if there are any changes to the market time.
Of course. Well, we want the update news, of course. And while we have 10 seconds, I'll go ahead and let everybody know that this is being recorded. So we're more than happy to send that out. Your slides are so valuable. I absolutely love hearing all your reports and check you out even when we don't have you as a speaker. So this will be recorded and we're more than happy to send it out to you. So if you guys want to play it over and over while you're working out and have it play in the background while you're doing your other work over and over, you can listen to them as much as possible. We'll send that out, reach out to your sales rep, and we'll get that over to you. And if you have any questions, please put those over in the Q&A and we'll get to those throughout the meeting.
Yeah. The best way to do that is sorry about that. Got to plug in the computer just in case it goes dead. But the best thing is to save them for the end, because I go through so much that I'll probably answer your question. And at the end, if I have not, we'll just fire away any other questions, additional questions that everybody has. So let's get right to it. I'm going to share my screen.
Perfect.
And there we go. All right. So here we are. It's the Riverside and San Diego County 2022 forecast and housing update. There have been some updates, that's for sure. And but I'm going to start off with some winter fun photos. And this is an actual MLS listing, but it's not a normal listing. They used a ton of mannequins throughout this whole entire house, as you could see. It's hard to believe that they use that many. What they're trying to do is trying to get your eyes off of how much work needs to be done in this property. But and this is Barbie turned 80 last year, and apparently she lives in Malibu on the beach. And when we have to go back to marketing for longer than 1 minute, this is, of course, something that you might want to do. Go to Home Depot, buy all the skeletons that you can, the yard displays as well as inside. Now, you're thinking, well, that's kind of silly. The other house is silly. This one, they took all these pictures for Halloween, and it got a ton of activity on Zillow as well as went viral. So kudos to that agent, because that agent is now super popular in their neck of the woods. This is your listing about 90 minutes after it goes live on the MLS. Yeah, it's true to this day. Finally found a house in my price range. Brianna knows, yes.
When you get a full, Stephen, no one can afford that.
Yeah. when you get a full price offer in this market. Are you kidding me? That's insultingly low. And this is going to be the flavor for the first several months for sure. And never underestimate the awesome power of makeup, indirect lighting, Photoshop, or the staging of a home for sale. And when the seller agrees to take on repairs, yeah, most agents totally understand this. So my own introduction is I'm a quantitative economic decision sciences major from UC San Diego in the beautiful city of La Jolla. 30 years in the business, Orange County native, Capital Valley High School grad, 9 kids. We're a blended family. People say Brady Bunch family all the time. Brady Bunch only had 6 kids. I have 9. We have 9. I brought the 6 on the right. My wife brought the 2 on the upper left. I adopted her. She adopted mine because we had them all the time. And then we had this guy. He turns 4 next month. So lots of fun at the Thomas household. And we have been all over the press from Financial Times of London all the way to New York Times and everything in between. And our company's Reports on Housing, it's your local real estate snapshot. It's really about driving home to mortgage professionals, everybody that's in the real estate industry. They need to really know what's going on in the housing market. And there is strength and power to data. I want to put that power in your hands rather than the Googling that all of our buyers and sellers and clients do, because what they do is they try to justify what they're looking for, and it's just not going to happen the way that they think it's going to. So we don't focus on the past. I don't like to look at sold data. Sold data is more of a reflection of what's already occurred. I want to know what's going on right now today. We're into 2022. I really don't care that much about what happened in November or for later on this month, what happened in December. What's going on today? Looking out the windshield, what's the available number of homes for sale, and what does demand look like? The last 30 days worth of escrow activity. That's demand. So it's a snapshot of escrow activity will give you what demand looks like, and supply is available number of homes. And from the supply and demand, we're able to tell you the speed of the market. So when market time drops down to very, very low levels, we're speeding. We're speeding incredibly fast. And that's what we have been doing for quite some time now. And our reports are used for the listing presentation, price reductions, like crazy, especially when we get down to price reductions down the road. Someday we'll get there. It's get buyers off the fence, stop talking about crashes and buying at the top of the market and all the things that buyers like to say. And instead, so when you're properly setting expectations, you're going to deliver more escrows. You're going to be able to close more transactions. And that's the power of data and what we're talking about. It puts you in the driver's seat for all the clients as to, I'm providing the information. It's not the other way around. And we have reports that dot all over Southern California. The reports last year will kind of give you a synopsis of where we've been and where we're headed. Last year was the hottest year on record for when we started the year. It was hot from day one. 2013 was very similar, but last year was hotter. This year is even hotter than last year. And that's what the next report that I'm going to be writing about is how it is even hotter. Bidding wars. I have to get into it again. I'm going to have to talk about it again this year because it's been a bidding war environment. It's really gnarly out there right now, and I'll explain why. Waiting will be costly. In a couple reports I'll be talking about this, not this next one, but the one later in January, because I need to tell buyers why they need to get back into the mix, why they need to continue to do this. There are real reasons as to why they should be playing as hard as they possibly can and writing a lot of offers until they finally hit pay dirt. Crash coming, we'll answer that, but that was what we've answered that in different reports. Is housing unaffordable? Everybody likes to focus on one thing, price. They need to stop doing that. They need to stop it because my parents bought a house in the 70s for $12,000. They could barely afford it. So when you're looking at, oh gosh, look at these 7-figure houses, it's different when you're talking about interest rates that are so low. And also incomes have risen substantially. So interest rates were different back in time, as well as where household incomes were. So housing's not unaffordable like so many people are saying. permanently parked, so people aren't moving like they used to. In Riverside County, it's once every 16 years. They're the best county. I'm in Orange County. That's the second worst at 24 years. San Diego is once every 20 years people are moving. This is the true statistic. It's not CAR or NAR's once every 11 years, and that's just a survey that they do. They're surveying some of the same people over and over again, because the younger you are, the more you move. The older you are, the less you move. Matter of fact, it is 93% of all baby boomers plan on aging in place, which means not moving until they pass along this, go from this earth up to heaven. That's really what this is. It's not going to create a landslide of homes that are going to come on the market, and people are staying in their houses. If you see that, it's the true number of units available and how many sold during that year. And I'm not talking through the MLS, I'm talking through the county recorder's office. So it's every single sale. And for San Diego County, that's once every 20 years. In Riverside, it's once every 16 years. And understand, it's been like this since we came out of the Great Recession, and it's not going anywhere. As a matter of fact, if anything, COVID made things a little bit worse, and people are staying in their homes even longer. Forbearance, this is foreclosures, facts. This is all about that distressed wave. We'll talk about that, but it's not going to happen. Last call for 2021. This is at the end of the year. I do these seasonality reports that people understand that what happens in the different seasons with demand and inventory. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. Demand plunges and so does supply. And that's what happened at the end of this last year of 2021. Luxury soars. Luxury has been a disproportionate number of closed sales. I talked about that. Housing insanity. When will it end? We'll talk about that. Inventory catastrophe. It's no longer an inventory crisis. At this point, it is an absolute catastrophe. San Diego County and Orange County right now are duking it out for who is the biggest knucklehead. And it's right now, it's neck and neck between San Diego and Orange County. It looks like San Diego is more of a knucklehead this week. We'll see. They've been trading places every single week. And Riverside County is not far behind them. And we'll get into that. Not about the price. So this is a one that I was talking about. Stop focusing on the price. People are kind of nutty on looking at the price, and everybody needs to stop it. Because you have to look at payments. Payments is really what this is all about, because it's what you're paying out on a monthly basis. And that's what you got to look at. A 2022 forecast is the most recent one that came out. So if you subscribe today and are not a subscriber, you get the most recent one. If you sign up today, a 2022 forecast. And speaking of subscribing, just go to reportsonhousing.com, click on subscribe, and it will email you. And these are done by email. They email them out to you, and you'll have a plethora of links at the bottom of them so that you can distribute it how you want. There's a PDF for printing it out, copy, cut, edit, paste with Microsoft Word, add your logo, make it a part of your newsletter, get it to your sphere of influence, email it out to everybody, Excel spreadsheets, infographics, social media posts, excerpts, a ton of charts. So you could just take one chart and post it if you wanted to, but there's so much information and this comes out every 2 weeks. Riverside County and San Bernardino got theirs this week. San Diego County, Orange County, and Los Angeles, they got theirs last week. So they get their next one coming up next week. So I alternate between the Inland Empire and along the coast. And it's $15 per month or $150 per year. And you get a month free if you sign up utilizing the coupon code 2022 sold. That's just for you guys, 2022 sold, because that's what you're going to do. You're going to sell some houses. That's what we do. So let's get it right into this housing crash. This is what everybody talks about constantly. It actually makes me sick how much people are talking about it. I was putting this thing together. I was listening to this guy about his 10 points, his 10 predictions for 2022. And I can refute half of them because this guy is a permanent bear and drives me crazy. But this is me. This is me at heart. I really am. I am a geek, a quantitative economics and decision sciences major. That is such a mouthful all by itself. And I love what I do. I love poring over the data. I like looking at it all day long, listening to podcasts, whatever I can get my hands on. It sounds nutty, right? But that's what I like to do. Some people like to follow sports. I actually do just follow the Anaheim Ducks. That's it. And other than that, I'm totally into my geeky stats. This is a plane. I don't know these instruments. I'm not going to pretend I know how to fly this plane. I am not going to get behind the wheel. This is my cockpit. My cockpit looks like this. There's so many charts I look at, but unfortunately, everybody likes to climb behind my wheel and tell me what's going to happen with the housing market. And a lot of people shake their head when I'm telling them different things that are going to happen with the housing market. And I go, how can they do that? I am the housing analyst. This is my lane. This is all I do. This is it. I get paid to be a housing analyst. And, but yet there are people, I'm a soccer coach. There are people out in the soccer field that like to tell me what's going to go on in the housing market. They don't know what I do. Everybody seems to have a giant opinion about real estate for some weird reason. They all think that they can fly this airplane, a housing analyst airplane. So just because they're wearing a nice suit, like what way I am right now without the tie, it doesn't make them a housing analyst. They have to have the credentials to back it up. And there are plenty of people that don't have the credentials that are out there. The guy I'm listening to is just an investor. That's it. He's an investor and he thinks he knows. And now he's a YouTube guy and he's trying to get his YouTube things up by talking about housing crash, because that's what buyers that have not purchased are rooting for. But they're rooting for the wrong thing, because the only thing that would cause this thing to crash is if we had interest rates at 4.75%. And then what are they going to do? Get into it with 4.75% interest rates. And by the way, we're not going to get there. So just because they're wearing a suit doesn't mean they know what they're talking about. There's tons and tons of social media misinformation that is out there. There's plenty of it. And I don't know if you've seen the movie Don't Look Up. I watched it. I cried and laughed at the same time, because it's kind of sad that our society mirrors a lot of that movie. It's really, really sad. It really is, because some of it's funny, some of it's not. And it was meant to be a serious movie, I was told yesterday. But you can understand there's a ton of social media misinformation, and you got to rely on the people that this is what they're experts in. And I believe that with just about everything. So don't listen to these knuckleheads. Instead, find your housing analyst and stick with the different housing analysts that are out there that actually know what they're talking about. The guy that predicted The Big Short has been predicting this a crash for so long, not only in many, many different areas, and he's been wrong for years. And yet he gets the 5 p.m. slot on CNBC all the time because he predicted the Great Recession. That was it. But he's been wrong since. Home values, this is really what's going on that's causing the crash. Well, home values are going way up, and geez, everything down the street selling now for $1 million. This thing's got to crash. The last time it went up like this, it crashed. And but the fundamentals behind it don't indicate a crash. But this is what everybody's looking at. They're looking at this. They're looking at 2012, 2013. Let's see. This is where we had appreciation, a mass appreciation, but then appreciation came down. And the only thing that saved the day were interest rates rising. That is why we had the appreciation come down. And in 2020 and 2021, we saw this giant spike. It went to about 19 point, just under 20%. And now it's come down a little bit. It's at 18.9%. It's going to probably float all the way down to 15%. And then by year's end, will be around 10%. That's too high. It's still going to be elevated. This is the Case-Shiller index, and it's still extremely high. Yes, it's coming off of its high of 20% because you can't keep on going up at that speed, but it's still speeding at 10% appreciation, right? So just because values are going up, everybody's going, oh my gosh, I don't remember what that felt like, that burn of the Great Recession. I know what that feels like. Either I was burned, or my friends or family or clients or somebody was burned. I know somebody that was burned. I don't like that burn. I do not want to buy at the top of the market. I know so many people that got burned at the top of the market. I'm not going to buy at the top of the market. Think about all the people that said, I'm not buying at the top of the market earlier last year. Boy, did they miss out, right? They missed out on just a truckload of appreciation. And the only reason is because they didn't want to compete. They wanted to wait for it to slow down. I have news for everybody. This inventory catastrophe that we're dealing with is not going anywhere anytime soon. So we have an issue, and we'll get into that. I'll show you what those numbers look like. But this is the purchase application index through the Mortgage Bankers Association. And you could see prior to the Great Recession, this is this spike. That's called a credit bubble. That is where anybody could get a loan. 2 dogs got a loan in the United States of America, and a whole bunch of dead people got a loan as well. A lot. a lot of dead people with social security numbers of dead people got loans. And that's because we did a lot of junk back in the day. This is the rise since 2013. You can see just a really slow rise in the purchase application index. And this is a normal rise. This is a normal trend. This is what we call boring, because economics can be boring. And this is a boring trend that shows me things aren't out of hand. And mortgage originations by credit score, you can see on the left, it's a mixed bag. That was prior to the Great Recession. We were giving people loans that probably shouldn't have got loans and putting on adjustable rate loans and pick a payment plans and all this junk on the left-hand side and had marginal credit. And this thing was a bad bubble that we were building. On the right-hand side, you could see everybody has excellent credit. When you have this many people, when you have a ton of people that are writing offers, it's survival of the fittest. It's Darwin. And what happens with that is the people that are the most qualified with the biggest down payments, the biggest bank accounts, those are the people that have been winning. And you can see that reflects in the credit score, which means that we have a really strong housing stock made up of people with strong credit scores, really good jobs. They're not going to have to move. And if things slow down a little bit, they just won't move, because they're in love with their mortgages. People say that people are in love with their homes. They're not in love with their homes. They're in love with their loans, what their monthly mortgage payments are. It looks great, especially watching rents continue to go up while theirs is fixed. And that is going to keep people in their houses and create a further supply problem down the road. So there was a supply and demand problem, a supply problem back prior to the Great Recession. And it's quite the opposite of what we're dealing with today. And I could see it coming at us like an old locomotive. And really, what it is the number of, this is unsold homes. It's very similar in all markets when I do every single one. I'm just going to show one so I don't have to do dual work and show you Riverside and San Diego County, but know that it's the same thing. I could see it coming back in the fall of 2005. And that's where we peaked late, which is not normal. Riverside County, actually, they can get late peaks, but they were late peaking in San Diego, San Bernardino, Riverside, and Orange County. and San Bernardino, Orange County, Los Angeles. And they peaked around Thanksgiving, and that's not normal. That's usually a flag for something's wrong. And that's exactly what happened. And we went from a unsold inventory in 2005 that was right around 2 months, all the way up to the end of 2005 was around 4 months. And then in 2006, we went from about 4 months all the way up to about 9 months. And then we went in 2007 from 9 months all the way up, you could see, to almost 25 months. That's unsold inventory. That's a 2-year inventory. So you can see that that we had a glut of homes available. You compare that to what's available today, and absolutely nothing's available today. During the Great Recession, over 40% of all mortgages had less than 10% equity. 28% of all mortgages were fully underwater. That's more than 1 out of every 4 people were fully underwater. That's not what we're dealing with today. Matter of fact, forbearances have been dropping like crazy. They continue to drop week after week after week. And it's down to 891,000 people in forbearance across the United States. 93% of those 891,000 have 10% plus equity, which means that if push comes to shove, they can sell their home, right? So there's only a few people that would be caught if they had to sell and not have enough equity to sell. And that's because equity has been building in spite of the fact that they haven't been paying their mortgages. It's been going up at a pretty rapid rate. There were, in June of 2020, that was the height of the number of people in forbearances at one time, and it was 4.3 million. The number of people that took advantage of forbearance, 7.7 million people. Now you're wondering what happened to all the people that came out. This report's going to be updated next week. Usually it's the first week of the month, but because it's a new year, they're waiting until next week. And this is done by Black Knight. They do an extensive analysis of everybody that came out of forbearance and what happened to them. Well, 6.7 million people, 59%, 4 million people are just performing like regular on their loan. And understand, when they came out of forbearance, they had to go to the workout department and figure out either they were never behind on they never were behind in their payment. They just decide to go to forbearance, but they continue to make their payment, or they do a payment plan or a lump sum or defer it to the end of the loan, or they sell their home. 59%, 4 million people are performing today. 1.9 million people paid it off, which means that they either refinanced or sold their home. That's 28%. A total is 87% of everybody is absolutely fine. It was as high as 90%, but what has been growing the most is this guy. And that is the people that are removed and delinquent. Working with the workout unit is 543,000. As a matter of fact, it's 900,000 over the last 60 days that have come out of forbearance, and they're working with the workout units, right? So the workout units are very, very busy, and they're going to put them into either you do this payment plan or you sell your house type of thing. The numbers that are truly delinquent is 264,000, only 4%. That's across the United States. And the ones that are in foreclosure that's it. Just the tiny little sliver of people are currently in foreclosure, 38,000. That's it. And so there's not going to be a wave of foreclosures. I'm tired of hearing it. That was one of the things that the knucklehead was saying. He actually said wave of foreclosures, and that just drives me nuts. And so there's not going to be a wave of foreclosures. It'll be more than last year, but anything's more than last year. There was absolutely nothing that happened when you have a foreclosure moratorium across the United States. So it'll be more, and percentage wise, it'll look like a lot. And that sometimes when it looks like a lot, know that economics can lie, numbers can lie, because it could say, boy, it's gone up 500%, but 500% is what? Going from 1 to 5 is 500%. So that's just not. That doesn't really tell the story. You have to look at it and the numbers that we have compared to history. There's not going to be a bubble. There's not going to be a crash. That's because the housing stock is extremely strong. And just know that that's not what's going to bring down the housing market. Instead, and I'm tired of saying this, it's just unhealthy. This market is unhealthy. It's like Super Bowl eating every single day. And I'm tired of it. So just know that I am. So where are rates headed? Well, right now, recently, they've been going up like crazy. And this is with 1 point down. So those people that are saying, yeah, I think the interest rate's around 3.5%. Well, that's because it's about 0.25% higher when you don't pay any points. Back in the day, you had to put 20% down and you had to pay 1 point. And that's this primary mortgage market survey goes to back in the day. It goes back 50 years. So in order to compare apples to apples, we do this with 1 point. And where we were at, the thing came out today at 3.22%. And so we're working our way towards 3.25%. And this is the highest since May of 2020. So just know that. And I'm going to explain what's happening in a second. But understand that COVID-19 started in March of 2020. And after that, we hit 17 record lows. And if COVID-19 never occurred, 3.22% would be an all-time record low. So understand that this is still a fantastic rate, just because prior to COVID, this is phenomenal. Now, and I'm pointing to right around the first week. It actually should have been, the arrow should be a little bit to the left there. But that was the first week of January. Last year we had, which is this week, we hit an all-time low of 2.65%. So yes, we've gone up since then. And let me tell you what's happened. So you can look at the 10-year Treasury to understand what's happened. And that is because the 10-year Treasury closely mirrors, this is why people talk about the 10-year Treasury and why I follow it all the time, because this will tell you what's going on with interest rates. What goes on with interest rates has to do with the 10-year Treasury. And it didn't really update this slide through today because this is only halfway through December, but you'll get the point. When the 10-year Treasury goes up, interest rates go up. When the 10-year Treasury goes down, interest rates go down, because the appetite of the people that want 10-year Treasuries is the same appetite of the investors that want 30-year mortgages. So at the beginning of last year, it went up, and I was stoked because it was going up, and we need it to go up in order for it to slow down. And then it went down. Then I was unhappy. It got all the way back down to 2.77%. It got up to 3.18% in March of 2021. And then after that, it came down. And then it got down to 2.77%. And then it started to rise again. And then it went down, and then it went up, and then it went down. And what's going on is there's this Omicron hit as well as inflation. Those two things were countering each other, and it's caused a lot of volatility. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Fed tapering, because this has totally changed Let me put all this stuff here. And this has totally changed. So in October, they were doing 40 billion, and then it went down to 35 billion, and then down to 30 billion, and then down to 20 billion. And what they're doing is they're buying mortgage-backed securities. So they're buying loans from the federal government, and this is the Federal Reserve. They're buying a ton of loans. They're holding on to all these loans, and it's making its way down to zero. By the time it gets to March, it'll get down to zero. Now, in the back, there are people that are paying their loans, and they're refinancing or selling, so they're paying off their loans. What do they do when all of a sudden that money comes back to them? What they're doing is they've been reinvesting that money right back into the system, and it's at a tune of $60 billion per month. So in October, November, December, January, they're still doing $60 billion per month. Now, it took them, after they did the tapering and went down to zero, it took them 2 additional years before they started to unwind their balance sheet and not do that reinvestment that I'm talking about. Now, what they're talking about here is, let's see, I forgot to update this the way it, let me just tell you that. Okay, yeah. So this does say that we're supposed to get down to $20 billion per month in January, $10 billion per month in February, down to zero in March, and zero in April. So they're no longer going to be buying brand new, where they say they're going to be doing an additional to the numbers that they have. Now, that reinvestment that I'm talking about, they're going to probably increase the short-term rate in March. That's not long-term rates, by the way. That's credit card debt and automobile loans in March. And they're going to also reduce, not reinvest all the money. So they're going to go from 60 to 50, and in April go down to 40. Remember, I told you that took 2 years to do last time? That was their playbook. Investors got caught because the minutes for the Fed for the December were released yesterday, and they said we're going to start to unwind our balance sheet, and that is what the reaction is to, and why interest rates all of a sudden went up towards 3.25%. They are going to stop, and then they're going to come back down, but right now the market is digesting it, and that's why you're getting higher rates. So interest rates, what makes them rise? Positive COVID news, good jobs reports, which we're going to get one tomorrow, stimulus package, infrastructure, all this pours money into the economy and it juices the economy, makes it even stronger. Also, inflation numbers, with these inflation numbers going up, it's not transitory, it's kind of been a little bit more where it's not temporary, it's continuing to happen. That's where that puts pressure on interest rates to go up. And if you see, the CPI has gone up to record levels, and know that inflation is up like crazy, and rental companies, car companies, and used vehicle prices and new cars are a big chunk of this. But there are other pieces of the puzzle that are of all the different commodities that we purchase that are going up. And one of those is actually fuel. And is it transitory? Not really. Know that COVID totally disrupted a lot of things. It closed down factories. It put a limit on our inventories around the world. And then there's a supply chain problem once everything got ramped up again. And that's what we're dealing with. It's not just boats. It's not just trucks. It's the whole entire system is broken at almost every piece. So know that there are cruise ships parked off of Long Beach, and it's just part of the problem. Microchips is another big problem. There's been a run on cameras and video cameras, as well as like what we're doing today, and better speakers and better everything and better microphones and that stuff. It all takes chip technology, and they don't want to build car chips, because car chips run on the lamest, most unprofitable chips. So the chip companies no longer want to make them. And that is where the problem lies with cars. So now they're going to have to go build their own chips. So like these different car companies are looking at building their own chips. So know that that the car problem is going to be around for a while, that the inflation is going to be sticky even when we surpass 2022. The inflation will come back down, but the prices will be sticky at the high. They're not going to come back down. It's kind of like when gasoline goes way up, it takes a long time for it to come down. I really don't think prices are going to come down much at all. And what am I really concerned about as an economist? The side of things is jobs. Jobs is a real issue, and it's not that we're not making enough of them. The problem is the workers have an upper hand on the job market. 4.2 million is where unemployment is right now. That was November of 2017 levels. I'm not concerned about unemployment. As a matter of fact, I am concerned about a lot of people resigning, the Great Resignation. And there are a number of job openings across the board. So job openings are through the roof right now. They're, I think it came down off of this high, but we're still over 10 million job openings right now across the United States. And openings are outnumbering the number of jobless. So which means that there are 0.7 workers available for every job opening. And it's hit record low levels that I've never seen anymore. So there's less than one worker for every job opening. That puts a lot of pressure on prices. It means that the fast food that we're going to purchase is going to be more expensive. All kind of commodities are going to be more expensive because they have to pay their workers more. So, but what is the best hedge against inflation? It's real estate. So when everybody brings up inflation, say, go buy a piece of real estate because rents are going to go up too. But guess what stays the same? Your fixed payment. And interest rates are going to float this year between 2.75 and 3.5%. We're right now at that 3.25% level. And yes, we can get up to 3.5%. That's a ceiling for me this year. And this is anything negative happens, like any kind of correction in the stock market, we can find ourselves back at 2.75% really fast. And know that because they're where they're at, it's going to make a hot market for 2022. And the lower the number, the more insane it is. So it'll be an insane seller's market at 2.75%. And at 3.5%, it'll slow things down just a tiny bit to make it a hot seller's market, not an insane market. So that's actually good news with rising rates. So the overall housing market looks like this. It's been crazy, and it's a supply and demand issue. It's the opposite of a supply glut. It's the supply crisis, or it's a really gnarly thing that we're dealing with. And know that people talk about, well, we're due for an economic downturn or a housing downturn. It happens every 10 years. That doesn't exist. So we can't put that in our vocabulary anymore. I'm tired of people saying it. So this is where I get up on a soapbox and tell you it doesn't exist. And if you have a client that's telling you every 10 years that there's a housing cycle, have them contact me, because I'd like them to educate me, because I've been looking since the 1980s for the cycle that they're talking about. It just doesn't exist. And instead, we do have a cycle that happens every year. It's the seasonality cycle. Spring is the strongest. And it's not today, and it's not right after Super Bowl. Super Bowl is a strong market, but that's not where people transact. The number one month or the season is spring. And the number one month for homes coming on the market is the month of May during the spring. And the number one month in terms of demand, new escrows opened up, is when? Spring, May. It happens between actually April and May. So know that, and typically it's May. And the summer is second. And why? Because we do this based upon when the kids are getting out of school. We want them to move during the summer. We place them in escrow during the spring, move them during the summer. And so summer is second. And it's also when there are more distractions of kids being out of school. And then you get to autumn. That's the slowdown because the kids are back in school. And then you get to the holidays. That's where things plunge during second week of November through the end of the year. We see a plunge in inventory. That's because the fewest numbers of homes come on the market during the months of December, and the second fewest is November. Third or fourth is January. So, and speaking of winter, that's where we're at. Holidays are behind us. After this week, we go right into, starting next week, the winter market. And that's where inventory is flat. Actually, will go down in some markets like Riverside County. And that is where demand climbs. And that's why always right after Super Bowl, everybody goes, this is a great time. There's so much demand out there. Come on the market. And they go, I don't want to come on the market because my kids are still in school and it's just the month of February. When do they want to come on the market? During the spring. And spring doesn't begin until the end of March 20th to be exact. And what does the supply look like? Well, it's really low, and it dropped like crazy at the end of the year. This is Riverside County. And if you see this, on December 30th, we were at 2,272. That's down 15%, or down 386 homes in that 2-week period of time. It brings us down to the lowest start to a year. Last year, we were at 3,161 at the same time period. That's 39% more. The 3-year average prior to COVID, 2017, 18, and 19, because I like to compare things to prior to COVID changing things, was 7,954. That's 350% higher than where we are today. And on January 1st, so this was on January 1st of this month, 2,202. It actually dropped another 3%. That's the lowest level. And I can tell you already that for most markets, it's going to go up. Riverside County is actually most likely going to go down. And but this is where San Diego County is. It really dropped down to just obnoxiously low levels on December 23rd. We're less than 1,500 homes, down 8%, 269 homes. That was the biggest. It's a record low level. It's an absolute record. It's been a record for over a month now. Every single time I snap it, it's lower and lower and lower. If you look on April 1st, that was the all-time low to the left in this chart, but this is even lower than that. Last year, we were at 2,613, which is 86% higher than where we are today. And the 3-year average prior to COVID, 5,365, is 281%. What does 281% mean? It means almost 4 times higher than where we are today. That's where we should be right now. So that's a lot more homes on the market. And January 1st, we were at 1,254. So it dropped another 10%, which is an all-time low. I don't know if you're ever going to see 1,254, but I don't want to ever say ever again, because after 2013, I don't think we're ever going to see numbers lower than 2013. And then we did. So, which is just unfortunate. And this is where we're starting off, the Riverside County, and you could see it's just going to go down from here. I think it's going to go down below the record low that was achieved in March of 2020 for Riverside County. And so where are all the homes? Well, let me tell you, part of the problem is not enough homeowners are coming on the market in Riverside County. For the years 2020 and 2021 combined, they're missing 10% of the market compared to where numbers of homes placed in the market prior to COVID. That's close to 10,000 missing homes, for sale signs. And in San Diego County, it is 12% fewer, almost 13,000 fewer for sale signs in San Diego County. San Diego County is home to the worst county as far as the number of homes coming on the market compared to prior to COVID. And COVID-19 is not really what's to blame, because so many people want to blame COVID-19, and that's just not what it is. It's really, where will I go? That's what people want to know. Where am I going to go? I don't want to, if you sell your home, you have to become a buyer. And they heard how hard it is to be a buyer. We need to change that narrative and tell them, I have strategies for, you can rent back for 3 months. You can get people that will buy a home and let you rent back for 3-4 months. I've heard it across the board. So if you get somebody that does that, that allows you enough time to find a place and write enough offers to finally get something. But you know what? More than anything else, these sellers are just ready to sit back, and they are saying, hey, you know what? It doesn't matter. My home value is going up anyway, so why do I want to move? So this is just adding that mentality to the problem of not enough homes coming on the market. And what does demand look like? This is escrow activity. It is nutty. And we're placing everything that comes on the market right into escrow. And the fuel of this thing is low interest rates, which we're kind of getting a little relief on. But let me tell you, start of this year, we started these new conventional loan limits for Riverside County at 647,200. That's the new height for where conventional is. And in the rest of along the coast, they have higher balance areas, so they have a higher conventional loan limit. And in San Diego County, it's now 879,750. And in Orange County, it's almost 1 million. It's 970,000. So what this does allows you to put 5% down mortgages and do it, up to a higher loan limit. So it just creates more demand, easier to qualify. It's a little bit harder to qualify for a jumbo loan. And so this makes qualifying easier up to a higher limit. So those limits just changed, adding more to the demand side. Everything is auction-like atmosphere. I know that when the numbers come out that they're going to look gnarly as far as appreciation is concerned, because there's nothing been on the market since December on. So anything that did go into escrow is going into escrow for a lot more than the asking price. So that is the flavor of 2021. It's the flavor of 2022. Sold over asking. And I got this updated that it's actually come down a little bit. You can see that this is the number number of sales above the list price. These are closed sales in the state of California. In the months of May, June, and July, it was above 70%. And then it started to go down in August. It went down to 68%. And then it's kept on going down. In the month of November, it's down to 59.2%. And December will be a little bit lower, but still above 50%. Prior to COVID, the highest number of sales above the list price ever was 40%. We are going way above that. And the reason why it's coming down is not because things are slowing down. It's because of a seasonality factor. It does it every single year. As a matter of fact, everything that we placed in escrow in December that's going to be closing in January and February, and everything we're doing in January on, we're going to have so many homes of so many homes above that sell above their list price that this number could climb above that 70% record very soon, maybe in March. I've got my eyes peeled. I want to see what happens there. The median days on market for everything that's sold in the state of California in November was 11 days. And the sales to list price ratio for the state of California, all price ranges, 101.4%, which means on average, things are selling for 1.4% above their list price. And if you look at, this is Riverside County on December 30th, they're at 2,518, down 540 pending sales, the biggest drop. Oops. Kind of did this. This is a large drop of the year. Last year, we were at 2,856. That's 13% higher than where we are. The 3-year average is 1,711. Prior to COVID, that's 32% less than where we are. So everything in Riverside County is being thrown into escrow. January 1st, we got down to 2,489, down another 1%. So that's what I've said is once you get to January 1st, it kind of establishes a low. And in San Diego, December 23rd, 2,188, 15% less than last year at this time. And let's see, this was the largest drop of the year, by the way. And last year we were 2,520. That's 15% higher than where we are today. I think I already said the 3-year average is 1,918. That's 12% less than where we are today. Even though San Diego is putting on far fewer homes than they did prior to COVID, we're still sticking everything into escrow, and the pending sales are higher than where they were prior to COVID. And January 1st got down to 1,872, so it dropped another 14%. And this is where, so what's going to happen is demand is going to soar, and that's what we're going to see in both Riverside and San Diego County. Is they've established their low, and it's only going to skyrocket from here. But it's not going to skyrocket past last year. It's just going to be slightly less than last year is where it's going to come out to, and that's because there are just fewer homes on the market to place into escrow. So it's going to limit the number of homes that you can place into escrow when there's a limited inventory. And so how fast is the market? Well, it's pretty darn fast. And for Riverside, it's at 27 days. And last year was at 32 days at this time. And the 3-year average prior to COVID is 141 days, so way higher than where we are. January 1st is at 27 days, so the same. And San Diego County is at 19 days, which is an all-time record. At 19 days, they tied their record. 19 days is the ties. They're April 1st. I can't believe they got to it. Last year, they were at 31 days and at the same time. So everybody's saying it was hot last year. This year is even hotter. And the 3-year average prior to COVID is 86 days. And on January 1st, went up to 20 days, but still is extremely hot. And the way that my speedometer works is kind of like golf. The lower the number, the hotter it is. So my speedometer is backwards because when we have during the Great Recession, it was way to the left on this, and we had an expected market time of a year, and now we have an expected market time depending upon your market. You can see it's very hot in Riverside County and at 20 days in San Diego County. And if you get this is where in between the black and the blue lines is a slight seller's market in both San Diego and Riverside County. That was 2019. The slight seller's market's where we don't do a lot of appreciation, but sellers still get to call the shots. And if I blow this up, there's a new place, and this is 40. So I had to come up with something new called below 40 days, and I call that the insane level. And that is where the market's absolutely insane. And we have been insane since June of 2020, and it's been insane ever since, and it will continue to be insane. As a matter of fact, it will only become more insane than bottom out in March. This is why everybody after Super Bowl goes, oh my gosh, it's the best time to come on the market. Yeah, in terms of how insane the market is right now, anytime you go in, you're going to do fine as a seller. And if you have to move up, now is a good time to place your home in the market. If you have to move down, then wait, because values are going to go up 10% this year. And home values are going to continue to skyrocket. They're skyrocketing. It's because of this imbalanced supply and demand. And I do not see an end to this. The interest rates could slow things down. We'll have to see if they continue. I hope they do. I hope I'm wrong, but I think that they're going to top out at about 3.25% and start coming down. And so when will the market slow? I've already told you the market will slow when interest rates go up. And that's what they did in the green line. That was 2013. Red line is 2018. The green dotted line are interest rates in 2013. They went from about 3.25% all the way up to 4.5%. It slowed things down. It did not turn it into a buyer's market. Some people go, yeah, when interest rates go up 1%, that the market will tank by 10%. That's not true. It just means that things will slow down. What happened was interest rates went up and then demand started to diminish a little bit, which allowed the inventory to rise. And when you have a rising inventory and demand less, market time started to rise. It didn't rise to the buyer side of the equation. It just rose from an extremely insane market to a more normal market. By the end of the year, it was a slight seller's market. And in 2018, we had the same thing. We had interest rates of 4%. They went all the way up towards 5%. By the time we got to November of 2018, same thing. We had the inventory rise as demand fell. So that's what you see here. And that's why I'm rooting for higher interest rates. So people like to talk about affordability, and it's not that things are not affordable, it's that things are less affordable. And as interest rates go up, there is a mortgage rate sensitivity. Interest rates were a lot higher back in the day, and I'm kind of going to give you a lesson. We can't stomach these interest rates. 10% was the year 1990, too high. It was at 18% in 1981. It was 8% in the year 2000. It was 6.35% prior to the Great Recession, and 5% in November of 2018. We know that we can't stomach that, right? 4% was my threshold for 2021. That was when I thought interest rates would rise by the end of the year, which they did not. So now I think the threshold is 3.75%, and this is with 1 point. So if you have no points, it's at 4%, by the way. And I think we're going to go up another 10% appreciation this year, and it's going to put the ceiling at 3.5%, or when interest rates with 0 points get to 3.75%. So just know that the more that we have values skyrocketing upward, the more our mortgage rate sensitivity kicks in. So it starts to drop. So we become more sensitive to lower and lower rates. So we can't rise as high. And that's just because buyers do the math. They go, I can't buy. Nope, not going to do it. And then when buyers say that, it diminishes demand. And then we get a rise in inventory. The market slows down a bit. And so a market overview kind of looks like this. Just know that millennials have been purchasing like crazy. It started in 2020. It's the strongest demographic patch of first-time home buyers. That prime age is 32 years old, and it started in 2020. 2021 was bigger. 2022 is even bigger, and it goes for not only 2022, but through 2024. And so it will continue, which just adds to the demand side of things. So contrary to popular belief or the narrative that they can't afford homes and they're living in the basement, they're moving out of the basement. They can't afford their homes because of their student debt. That's not true. Instead, they're moving out of the basement, moving out of their multi-roommate situation. They're getting married. They're having babies. They're doing what humans do. And so millennials are buying homes. Stop picking on the millennials. Move to somebody else. Move to next generation. Zeke is Generation Alpha, by the way. So hit up the Generation Alpha. Luxury has absolutely been surging. Closed sales have been way up. And in Riverside County, it's up since it's the highest since like 2005. In San Diego, not quite. It's like 2016 because demand was the number of escrows was limited by the sheer number of homes that were not coming on the market. But luxury has been surging off the charts. And if you see this, luxury is just absolutely been crazy. And this is Riverside County. This is San Diego County. We're just doing a disproportionate number of luxury closed sales. And In Riverside County, it's going to stick. It's at 800,000 plus. That's the top 10% of the market. It was actually 750,000, but I made it 800,000 plus for last year. So it's going to stay at 800,000. San Diego County is moving from 1.25 million to 1.5 million is now top 10% of San Diego County. And Orange County and LA County is moving from 1.5 million. Their luxury is now 2 million plus. So know that rents have been skyrocketing like crazy off the charts, and they will continue to do. There was a lag in when that started, and this will continue to go up, which is why you need to purchase a home and fix your payment forever. So that's what's going on over there. Let's do this 2022 forecast and talk about it. Well, I don't quite know what's around the curve. It's a little foggy, so I'm going to slow down. When it's this bad, I need to slow down. Why am I'm just uncertain. I'm uncertain because there's so many things that go into a year. From a lot of people thought that Delta was the last of COVID, and then along came Omicron. I didn't even know what the heck an Omicron was, but I looked it up, and sure enough, because I'd never heard of Delta, Omicron. But anyway, so there's uncertainty. There's COVID-19 variants. What's after Omicron? That's what we need to be concerned with. Rates remain low. I told you that's a concern. I want it to go up because otherwise we're dealing with an inventory issue that is at a catastrophe level, and that's where we are right now. The only thing that can fix this is higher rates. Washington, D.C., this has been on my on that concern of mine always, because they can mess with our market. For sure, with what we do. And wages rise too fast. I told you that's a concern of mine. On the inflation front. Buyer fatigue. I have to write reports. Not the next report, but the report after that is going to be about addressing buyer fatigue. So another reason why you want to subscribe to these buyers got to keep on continuing to try to purchase. Values rise too fast. That's what I'm concerned with in unrealistic sellers. Know that once the market does slow, that you're going to be dealing with this gal and the gentlemen are just the same way. They're going to be unrealistic, and you're going to have to convince them of why they're overpriced. And that's what my report talks about. So my forecast is distress rises slightly, no wave. The numbers percentage wise are going to look off because when you go from 20 to 40, that's a 100% increase. When you go from 20 to 60, that's a 300% or 200% increase. So you get the point that these numbers are not a lot, but because we've done none, it's going to look like a wave. It's not. So just know that distress rise is slightly, no wave. Normal housing seasons, you're going to tell them that they need to come on the market after Super Bowl. They're not going to want to until the spring. Spring is best, then summer. First half will be hot due to limited inventory, and the second half slower with higher rates. And lowest start to a year for inventory. We had that. We in both Riverside County and Orange County. Rise in inventory eclipsing 5,000 in Riverside County and San Diego County. We need more homes, and this is still well below averages, but it'll still eclipse that. Demand, it's recent pending sales, down slightly year over year. We're not going to quite get to where we were last year, but still really good. Closed sales will be down 3 to 6%. It'll be better than 2020, not as good as 2021, right in between. And luxury continues to soar, but slightly muted compared to 2021 as year progresses, because there's going to be more volatility the second half of the year, and that doesn't bode well for luxury when there's volatility in the economy. Increase in move-up sellers. So as there's more homes that come on the market, there will be more sellers that can do that multiple move, the domino effect move. So buyers motivated by low rates, but not as willing to stretch. And appreciation in 2022 up 8 to 10%, and interest rates between 2.75% to 3.5%. So go to reportsonhousing.com, click on subscribe. I promise that the reports aren't like a fire hose of information. I focus on one topic at a time, and then talk about inventory, talk about demand, talk about luxury, and then I have a bunch of charts at the bottom of that just explain every city, gives you the inventory, demand, and expected market time in cities, and the amount of distress and all that stuff, and price ranges. It's $15 per month or $150 per year. You get a month free if you sign up utilizing the coupon code 2022 sold. 2022 sold. And now I can open it up to Q&A, because that is all I've got for you. So Let's see. Do we have anything in the chat? Nope, doesn't look like it. This is great.
Nothing as of right now. Let's see if
Yeah,
we.
they just said, do we have access to the recording? I'm sure you'll give them a.
Yeah, we are recording this, and we will get it out to you. Just reach out to your local sales rep, and we'll get it over to you as soon as it's available.
Yeah. Does anybody appraisal issues? We always have appraisal issues. That's where if you talk to a lender, they'll tell you that mom and dad and grandma and grandpa and uncles and aunts are all really helping out quite a bit with appraisal issues. And there's a lot of money that a lot of buyers have in the bank. So this is why you want to do your homework and due diligence to see, okay, if you have an appraisal issue because you're going to waive that appraisal, what are you going to do to make up the difference? And there's a lot of people that have access to funds. That's what we're seeing across the board. So that's we will have appraisal issues for as long as values continue to surge, and they're going to continue to surge. Who is selling their homes right now? Which demographic? Everybody. It's just people are doing the natural move. There are more people moving out right now. The latest study from UC, they did two studies last year. They released one in May, which was for a calendar year that ended it was all of 2020. And it showed that it hasn't really changed, that there's been a slight increase in the number of people leaving and a slight increase in the number of people that are coming. And that was, it didn't really change much, but it did change last year. 2021 was a big change in that. We are seeing people they're going, hey, I've got all this cash. I can work from home. I made so much money in my California home. I'm going to move to Nashville, or I'm moving to Boise, or I'm moving to Austin, and they're driving up home values in those areas. But there's still plenty of demand that remains here, and know that will fix over time. That will ebb and go back to the normal trend line that we had prior to COVID. Not everybody's going to leave this state. I already know people that have left and are coming back. So know that that's the demographic of who that specifically is. It's just various people for various reasons are moving, and just like the various people are coming in and trying to purchase, and millennials are coming of age where they want to purchase. And so they're a big piece of this demand because we have plenty of demand. If everybody's leaving the state of California, great. It will create more inventory, which is what we need. What's the forecast on new construction projects to feed housing demand in San Diego? Not enough. And really understand this, that we're hitting a lot of permits last year. So we're starting to finally get to a level of permits that we should have been at after the Great Recession, but we just got to that about a year ago. So we're not building enough. We're finally building enough to where we should have been before. Builders are only going to build to the capacity of their demand and profits. That's it. They're not going to all of a sudden build a whole bunch, because that's not how they make their profits. They're not answering to the governors and the presidents and the senators and all that. They answer to Wall Street. So just know that is not going to change much. What can we say to our clients about the inaction of Zillow? So that's funny. So I would say, yeah, see what happened to Zillow? That was from them following their own platform, and they're not that great at it. So I would not want to, especially as these values get higher, I would not want to follow Zillow. You can see it as a kind of like a gauge of, it's not an accurate gauge though. It's kind of a gauge of the direction of prices, but it's definitely not a gauge of your exact home. And they proved that themselves. So that's what I would say. I'd create my elevator speech around that. Is Bitcoin a digital currency making an impact? It is. People are doing that. I haven't seen an actual true, I've seen some surveys done, but I'm not a big fan of surveys, as you could tell with the number of people that, moving in a year. It's what, 11%, or it's once every 11 years is when people move. It's actually closer to once every 20 years. So surveys aren't that accurate, but we do know that Bitcoin is playing a role in it. Just know that this is where there could potentially be a bit of a bubble when my kids and all their friends are saying how important it is to get into Bitcoin. That's an issue. That's where I have an issue. So because there's no intrinsic value, and they give all the reasons why, and it's very similar to the reasons of backing gold. So not a giant fan of Bitcoin yet. People are trying to convince me. There will be a different monetary system down the road, but I'm not convinced it's Bitcoin. So I think that's all the questions that I can see that have lined up.
Did you answer how many cash deals? Do you know the percentage of cash deals?
I haven't got the latest. I kind of want it came down a little bit. It's close to 1 out of every 5 are cash deals. And we kind of get that sense in escrow land and dealing with our own offers that are coming in, that there's a lot of cash in the system. So it's about 1 out of every 5. And that's where it's kind of playing. Know that investors, and there's another question that comes up, are investors purchasing there a lot more homes and holding on to them? Yes, they are at a higher rate. It was 8% of all transactions, I think, 10 years ago, and it's 16% of all single family resident detached are being purchased by investors that are holding on to them and turning them into rentals, which is, I think that causes a problem too. I hope that we get, the government will legislate around that a little bit, because it's making it harder and harder for people actually to purchase. When we're not building and everybody's buying properties to turn them into rentals, that creates a little bit of a burden on our housing market. So I think there needs to be some legislation around that.
I think that plays into the next question of, does Airbnb have an impact? Because that's
it's
similar.
It's essentially pulling them off the market where it could have gone to a millennial that's starting their family. Right. So when you're just diminishing the supply of homeowner occupied homes, that's been diminishing over time when we're not building enough. So that's why the builders are not going to make up the difference. They're going to build to the capacity of their profits. So any other questions?
I think that was all of them. I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So everybody have a fantastic day. Go to reportsonhousing.com, 2022 sold, and you'll get a free month. Prop 13, any changes coming? Nah. Everybody's been talking about Prop 13 changes coming since I've been in real estate. That's like people saying that you need to put all your money in gold. Same people talking about Prop 13. They're not going to change Prop 13 anytime soon. That's not how our state runs.
Well, thank you so much, Stephen. And thank you everyone for joining us today. If there's anything that we can do for you, please feel free to reach out to your local sales rep. And we hope to be doing an escrow with you soon.
Bye, everybody. Take it easy. Have a good one.
Thanks, everybody. Happy New Year.